Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're having a conversation about board game publishing, about the stuff that you learn along the way. Austin Harrison from Ivy Studios. You all have put out a few titles.
Yeah, we've put out. Well, do you count just not expanded? 3,
Moonrakers,
4.
Veiled Fate.
Yep. That's definitely one of them.
Mythic Mischief, and soon, the lovely Fractured Sky. These are all my box lids, so the damage will be billed to Ivy Studios. Soon, Fractured Sky. You've had quite a few campaigns that have been in the crowdfunding marketplace in the $500,000 to $800,000 range. Mm-hmm. You've had one particular campaign, the new expansion for Moonrakers, that skyrocketed almost to that $2 million mark.
That was a big welcome surprise. Big old welcome surprise.
You're approaching, will this be your 5th campaign and your 4th game?
5th campaign, 4th game.
As a publishing house.
Yep. And
established, operating, surviving even through the pandemic.
We're still here. Yeah.
So, what I wanted to talk with you about today is go through each one of your titles and talk about something that you learned along the way, something that this game taught you, whether that's from design to production to just the narrative of what it's like to be a board game publisher.
Right.
Moonrakers.
So
baby number 1, right?
Baby number 1. I think the main thing that we all learned, but me specifically learned, was just getting past imposter syndrome. Because, I mean, who are we to design a board game? Like, we played a lot of board games. We loved board games. But, you know, it's just like when you're making it, for the first 3 months, my job of, helping design it, my professional opinion when I submitted it to Zach and Sam, the owners, about what I should do next was, let's stop doing this.
Really?
Did I tell you that before?
No.
Yeah, no, I was like, the game's not working. I've been working on it for 3 months.
So 3 months in, you went to your bosses
and I said,
close friends.
I should go back to just working at the animation studio. Like, this isn't working.
Hey, guys, remember when I had a career that I felt really confident in? And I knew what I was doing?
I had just figured that career out.
Yeah. So now we're doing this, and I'm going to be honest with you.
It doesn't feel right.
I'm failing.
Yeah, like, the game was not fun, objectively. You know how we do, like, you fulfill contracts?
Sure.
That part wasn't in there. You were fighting enemy ships, but they all had their own decks. And so half the game was just flipping over cards for people. It was bad. It
takes away a lot of the player agency.
Yeah, it really does. In fact, I've never thought about this before, but Luminor kind of is like that, but it's all being digitally done. You're not, like, flipping over cards and doing that kind of stuff. But they have, like, random abilities and stuff like that, like the enemy ships do. So that's interesting. I never thought about that before. But came full circle. Anyway, yeah. It just wasn't fun. And, like, me and Max, I specifically remember being at a conference for Bouncy Smash, which was an app that we developed a long time ago. And during the downtime after the show, we were working on Moonrakers, and we were playing it in a hotel lobby, and I was just like, we've been playing for 2 hours. It feels like we've played a quarter of the game, and this is not fun. And so, yeah, Zach and Sam were like, no, like, it takes time to do this stuff. Just, like, keep going. We'll keep playing it with you. And yeah, it just was getting past the imposter syndrome. We eventually got it to a place that we were really proud of, and we started working on art, and it's in the version that you've played now. But if it was up to me, we would have never made any games.
There was definitely a point where you were like, I think I'm quitting because I'm wasting your time.
I wasn't gonna quit the company. I just wanted to go back.
No, because it was a big transition. It was a big step. It was. I mean, even though you were within a secure footprint, you're still looking at this thing and you're like, I'm in new territory. I haven't done this. I don't know that this will succeed. And if this doesn't succeed, people I care about just put a lot of investment on me.
Yep. And I know a lot of people that reach out to us. And they're just like, hey, I'm designing a game, would love some advice. I've got 100 pages of lore written. I'm about to do my first playtest. And I'm like, oh, whoa, like, hey, like, the lore part is great, and you're definitely going to use that. But don't be discouraged when that first playtest is terrible.
Or they hate it.
Or you hate it, because I hated the game for a long time. Like, I just didn't find it fun for 4, 5, 6 months. And so, like, you're going to go through iteration after iteration after iteration before you find something that's fun, and then you just hold on to that fun and you chase it. You change all the rules to wrap around that fun.
And so that's the story of Moonrakers.
That's the story of Moonrakers.
You got past the fact that you could create a board game.
Okay, and this is the opposite problem. I was
Here
too
we have
confident.
Veiled Fate.
Yes.
What's going on here?
So Veiled Fate.
You did it. You accomplished Moonrakers.
We did Moonrakers. We're feeling pretty good.
Delivered, beautiful page. Everyone was telling you guys, like, you're one of the best.
I don't know about that, but there was a lot of good feedback.
When it came to the Kickstarter page?
Oh, the Kickstarter page was great.
I mean, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Veiled Fate, me and Zach were driving home from Dice Tower. We're driving to the airport from Dice Tower after going down there to show Moonrakers. We were talking about the next thing. What's the next thing? And Veiled Fate, we'd played a video game called Hidden in Plain Sight, which was about, like, you had a person in a crowd, you were moving them around, and the other person would be trying to find the person you're moving around a crowd. So you're trying to act very natural. Yep. And we were like, could we make a board game experience that kind of feels like acting natural in the crowd? And so that's where the original idea for Veiled Fate came from. And I designed something that was a race to 5 points.
Okay.
All right? Played very similarly to how Veiled Fate plays now. It was just first to 5 points. And the quests, there was not too much going up 2, down 2. It was very rare. It was very much going up 1, going down 1. But overall, there was more going up 1s than there were going down 1s. So eventually somebody won.
Sure.
The tension when multiple people were at 4 points was just out of this world. People screaming, "Don't you dare put black on that spot! Like, they're gonna win, you're not playing this right!" And then, like, the votes just being big surprises led to these huge moments, and I was just like, this game is awesome.
Okay.
The problem was, you take it outside of that core playtesting group.
Yeah.
Those 5 people that were playing it
who
all the
were really
time,
invested in
who
that
were really
game
invested into
experience.
that game experience. The game fell totally flat. Someone won almost just randomly. Like, the meta was so important to the game being good.
Sure.
That playing it without people that had played it 30 times just was not good.
Sure.
And Zach and Max were like, Austin, it cannot be a race to 5 points. They need more room to breathe. The game just, like, needs more time in general. It needs to be round-based, because the game could range between an hour and 3 hours going to 5 points. It was just all whether you could stop people from scoring.
Okay.
They were like, it needs to be less of an unknown about how else is going to happen. I said, no, the best part of the game is
that
the race
screaming.
to 5 points, is the screaming and the tension and all of that. And I fought for months.
Me and George have an amazing time.
Exactly.
This is my favorite game.
I was like, the playtest group that we play it with loves that.
You
We
don't
can't take it away.
understand. Hanging out with my buddies is one of the best things I ever do.
So the piece of advice here, and the thing that I learned, is you got to kill your darlings sometimes. And I hate that. It is my least favorite part about designing. Fractured Sky, I have killed actually, I didn't kill. Zach and Max killed multiple things that needed to be killed that I didn't want to kill.
Sometimes it's even admirable to remove your darling for the sake of just seeing if your darling is
actually
distracting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
your darling might be great. Like, that mechanic really might be great, but it also might be hiding the other things that make the cohesive game work.
Yep.
Like in this case, it really didn't work with your group.
Worked way better without the Race
Didn't
of
work with
5.
anyone else, yeah.
Exactly, for the broader audience. And that's why it's so important for me to design with other people. I am not good at taking things out.
Sure.
And you know, Max and Zach just happen to be better at that. That being said, I don't come up with all the ideas for our games. Like, it's not just me adding stuff and then them taking it out. Like, we all add stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You just don't take any of it out.
No, I constantly am fighting to keep things.
Mythic Mischief. The follow-up. The third in the line. So you've learned that you both could make a board game as long as you didn't quit. Then you learned that maybe you shouldn't make the game you were hoping to make.
Yeah, and make a game that's good for the audience.
To the other people. Now we're on to Mythic Mischief. What did this game teach you?
Man, I did not think the theme could work with the gameplay. I thought it needed to be like a battle game, like an actual combat game, and I wasn't trusting the team that we could make it fun, because the original idea was just cliques in a school, and it wasn't the monster mayhem type of thing. And so I think this is tying in almost to Kill Your Darlings, but in some way, like, I need to trust the other designers I'm working with, because everyone else saw the vision for it, and I didn't. And then when we started getting art back and we started seeing the Bonk-a-Buns, I was like, this is actually, I love the theme integration in this. And I'm so glad we didn't make it like a straight-up battle game, because there are so many straight-up battle games.
So what were you imagining? You were imagining, like, hunting down the leader or something like that?
Yeah, like,
because you don't actually interact with each other as much.
Oh, this is, like, pretty early. Like, the Tome Keeper wasn't necessarily the only way to kill people then, or, like, catch people then. And so this is really early in the design process on Mythic Mischief. This is Max's idea, Max Anderson, and I love having him on board because his brain works very differently.
See, I would have done like rats in a basement.
That would have been fun. It's just like two factions of rats.
Yeah, just different rodents.
Or it's like the rats versus the mice, and they're having a war.
It's just different creatures. Different in this like scummy sewer area.
And I think the thing I learned most about this is trusting the two other people I designed with.
I've got a skin. I've got a new skin for this.
Okay.
Hear me out. Listen.
All right.
The Tomekeeper.
Okay.
Becomes an animal sanctuary capturer.
Okay.
All the factions turn into dogs and cats.
Cats. That would be kind of fun.
That would sell.
Or like it's like dogs, cats, raccoons.
No.
Snakes.
No. Just dogs and cats. That's all you need. That's for the internet. All you're trying to do is dogs and cats. So this was a lesson in other people can also be right.
I learned that on Veiled Fate too, just in a different way. Other people can be right.
No. In Veiled Fate, you learned you can be wrong. In this, you learned other people could be right.
I just am a huge pretentious person.
You're growing a lot.
I'm just the worst.
You've really grown as a person.
But it's true. Like you start off completely unconfident, and then you have too much confidence.
A letter from your wife.
Oh gosh. No, but I mean, it turned out to be something I love so much.
Yeah.
And had I held the reins, it would never have turned out that way. And so I think that's the lesson I learned. It's just
cool.
Yeah.
All right, and the one that we're working on.
Oh man, I learned the same lesson.
Well, let's take a quick pause.
Okay.
You hadn't prepped this one, but you did have in the middle of this an expansion wave for Moonrakers, and since the first three have been talking about the experience of creating in a lot of ways, which I find interesting, is the stuff that you've really pulled out, right?
Yep.
The idea that you're maybe not equipped to design a board game, learning that no, in fact, your ideas are bad, and then realizing other people are better at this than you are. Those are the first three lessons that I got from our conversation. What was the experience of going back to a title and working on the expansion content, which, in my opinion, transformed Moonrakers? Like, it brought it from a state where it was clear that this was a first-time designer, making a great game, but still a first-time designer, to a powerhouse. Like, really, really good. You could tell the design experience and the collaboration between the team members was on point to create the thing that you created when it came to the Titan expansion. So what was that like?
Yeah, so there's 2 points I want to make for this one. So one is, when we're talking to other designers or talking about our games, we like to establish like the spirit of the game. Moonraker's spirit is going on space adventures with your friends, right? Like the short-term alliance stuff came from that. Yeah. And we really just like comparing everything that you're trying to add to the game to that to make sure it stays within the spirit of the game. And one is not just throwing content in for content's sake, but also really targeting problems that could be in the game that we could fix with expansions.
Sure.
And so the first one, we actually made an expansion and play tested it that has never seen the light of day. It was a single-use card expansion. You got a new store that had like missiles and a bunch of other stuff, and it had a lot of player interaction, but it was negative player interaction. And we play tested it for a while, and some of it was pretty fun, but it added a new feeling to the game, and it was not the spirit of the game.
We're no longer going on space
adventures with friends. Now, you could argue that Moonrakers breaks that because you can betray people in Moonrakers. Sure. However, the game really does not encourage that.
And when you do betray people, it feels like a friend has betrayed you, not an enemy ship.
Yep. Yeah. And on top of that, like, the game forces you, like, if you complete a contract, because we went on a contract together, and you didn't do a thing to help me, and we both completed it, I still have to give you what you negotiated for.
Yeah.
And so there's things in there that make it feel like going in for... Anyway. Yeah. Not important. So that we ended up just establishing, a lot of people have asked us to take that element in Moonrakers. They wanted to be able to kill people's ship parts. They wanted to be able to hurt them, take away prestige. Sure. And we added it in. It worked. Like, there wasn't anything mechanically wrong with it. It just felt wrong.
Which wasn't the spirit of the game.
Yeah. Interesting. So we did a different expansion.
Interesting.
It was one of the original three. We had Binding Ties, Overload, and that. And we switched it.
That's what it was called? And that. Yeah.
Actually, it was called...
when you do release it...
Munitions? I think it was called Munitions or something.
When you release it in like 5 years, it's just going to be called... And that. Final one.
Yep.
We have the project approaching Kickstarter now. Fractured Sky.
This is relearning Veiled Fates lessons.
Let's see. So, Fractured Sky, you all are advertising as potentially your best game
It
yet.
is dependent on the person. I personally think this is our best game, and I think that it will appeal to the most people.
And so I have two thoughts around Fractured Sky when it comes to that. I think this could be my favorite from what you've released because of the accessibility combined with the environment of play. We're talking an hour, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing player interaction. I have a group coming over tonight to play some Splatter games.
Yep.
I want to teach them this game.
Nice.
Because it fits for a group that plays 18xx and Splatter. And at the same time, I want to bring this back to like a group of people that love party games and teach them this game because it fits. So it's insanely accessible and really, really well done. I need to play it more to know if it's my favorite out of the lineup, but it very well might be. The second thought I have is that I could, especially with the retail release of this, I could see this being something that is like an evergreen because of its footprint, right? It's 1 to 5 player window, the box size, how easy it gets to the table, how easy it plays. The only question is, does your weird aesthetic and art grab people? Does it pull people in? That's the only thing in my mind.
Yep.
So what are the lessons here? What have we learned?
All right. So remember when we talked about Veiled Fate 10 minutes ago, and it was you got to kill your darlings. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I didn't learn that lesson very well, even though I remembered it from Veiled Fate. In this game, you were placing out 3 ship tokens, and you have 10 troop power, and you have to spread out those 10 troops among your 3 airships.
It makes a really interesting puzzle because you know the maximum that other players can have, and you can deduce where
things.
they might have within a range of a few.
Yep. Well, I had on your player board upgradable buildings that you could build on your player board. One was called the Wizard's Tower, and one was called the Barracks. The Wizard's Tower lets you put out another airship. And so you could think of this as like a docking tower or something.
4 airships.
So you'd have 4 airships. So you could spread out your 10 among the 4. What this allows you to do, you'd be weaker, but you could pick up points that were just kind of floating that no one had gotten.
More regions and more resources.
More regions and more resources. The other one let you put out 2 more troops. The barracks. Every barracks, you could buy 3 of these.
Go from 10 to 12.
Yeah, you'd go from 10 to 12. Well, suddenly, you just were looking at the board, and then you're like, well, he's got 4 tokens, and he's got 12 or 14 or 16 troops he could put out there. It just lost all meaning. That the ability to deduce was at such a high skill ceiling that it just wasn't important anymore. And you could brute force way more.
So instead of feeling like it was an approachable deduction, you then your brain just went,
it was like, I can never figure this out. So.
I either am going to have to win this or I'm not. I'm not going to come down to the tight, very, very satisfying victories where you played a 7, they played a 6, and they had 1 tower, right? Like that. Then that happens all the time right now. We see victory on we see victory happening on the tiebreaker mechanic, which is how quickly you end your whole cycle. We see victory happening on the difference between placing down a single point airship. We see victory happening on bluffing on the objective, on bluffing someone, like going to a location and directing 5 of their troops there because you know that sucks away the resource they need somewhere else.
You did that to me that last game. I did that to Evan that last game. But it's all because you can deduce what you think is
the math is right there.
You can think, I think that's their 10 and these 2 are zeros. But when it's 4 or 5 airships and 16 troops, that math just totally changes.
So this was another lesson in killing your darlings.
It was killing your darlings. I loved it. It was so fun to be able to just put 16 down somewhere because you got a 10 to 6.
Sure.
And people are like, I'll just never beat that. And I'm like, yeah, you won't. But it was actually my 1 in my 6. And so I actually had 7 there and I had a 10 somewhere else. Or a 9 somewhere else, so they couldn't tell it was my 10. And I loved that. But it was so chaotic and you just couldn't deduce anything. And I had Robert from our Discord. He's one of our Discord mods. He said you are playing mind games that you think you are playing and no one else is playing.
No one else is playing with you.
It's not. I wasn't even playing the games because no one was there with me. And he's like, and that's just not simplifying it will allow for those head games, and it did. It did. But I was really against it. And once again, in my own way.
This has been a lesson on why Austin Harrison is maybe not the best at his job.
No.
Thank you for watching. No, but all of this speaks to, I think, what people go through when working on any artistic or creative endeavor. You have your thing that you have to create. You have to get past the barrier of, can I even do this? Am I equipped? Am I able? Am I smart enough? Or is this fun enough? Or is this, And then you get to a point where you have to start trusting people around you. You have to remove some of the things, like people talk about it, and authors talk about it all the time. Their favorite chapters get cut because their chapter was so good, it didn't fit for the rest of the story. It didn't work. It took away from everything else. Sometimes, like, the thing that you're talking about could be amazing, but it doesn't mean it's right for the cohesive project. You have to be able to see the whole garden, not just like a really beautiful rose. And then you follow up with that, and you start talking about how you have to trust the people that you're working with, but it's not all about that. Part of game design and part of any artistic creative process is also that initial process of saying, I'm good enough to make this, and I trust myself to do it. And it's only from that standpoint that you can then say, that can be removed, this can be cut. Because you learn that in Moonrakers when you go back to it, where you're looking at it and you're saying, hey, the heart of this game, like that we created, is that you're going on cool adventures with your friends. You can screw them over, but like it's not about blowing up other ships. So that doesn't work. You have to be a confident game designer to be able to recognize and look at a game and say, this mechanic that is mechanically sound and fun to play doesn't fit with what we've created.
Which was hard because we spent a lot of time testing that one. So
cool. This is a fun conversation. Any
super fun
thoughts?
For me. Just super fun. Get to talk about all my personality flaws.
You guys make awesome products. And I think people are interested in seeing what it means to make awesome products. People just see a product on the shelf and they think like, oh, that's like, but they don't have very good context for what it took, what the trial and error was, and the fact that board games in a lot of ways are an artistic expression in the same way that novels and video games and paintings are. Like this is a project of love that has math and numbers and algorithms behind it. Some of them way more than others. But still, at the end of the day, this is a work of art as well. It's a handcrafted experience.
And if you're making a game, it's gonna suck until it doesn't. All of our games sucked until they didn't. And maybe you think they still do. That's okay.
2 out of 3 isn't bad.
Hey!
And on that note, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.